Welcome to the Damn Good Dogcast. You already know who it is. It is your host, Robert Reynolds. Here we go. All right, guys. Today on the show, Billy Derrick joining us from the Dore Report. And we're talking Vanderbilt football. There's a lot of stuff going on from last year that, a lot of Georgia fans are, let's just say, highly upset about. But we're going to talk a little bit more than just that, right? So let's be honest here. 2021 season is a new season, new regime up in Nashville. First off, Billy, just want to take a second to say thank you for coming on. And then two, definitely want to get your feel for, what are your thoughts on the new regime with Coach Clark Lay?
Yeah, so Robbie, thanks for having me on, man. This is awesome. The Damn Good Dogcast, I think, has got a good potential here down the road. But yeah, Clark Lea coming in, first year has not necessarily, I wouldn't say high expectations, obviously because of what Coach Mason left him. A lot of players transfer. They had the most amount of transfers in 1 year, I think, ever with a football program to enter the portal, whether it was with opt-outs or transfers. So players have kind of, there's a few players have come back and out of the opt-outs for Clark Lea, and he's got a little bit, most of the recruiting class coming in also. So as early enrollees. So Robbie, I'd say, if Coach Lea gets to 4 wins, there's going to be a lot of happy Vanderbilt fans, especially if they beat Tennessee, because I think they could go 1-11, and even if they beat Tennessee, there's going to be a lot of happy Vandy fans. It's kind of the state of that rivalry.
Yep.
And Vanderbilt has had success recently against Tennessee, and if Coach Lea can get that rolling and will keep that rolling, I think he will grab the attention of Vanderbilt fans, because that's a game where, as a Vanderbilt coach, you need to win that one to kind of, to feel the presence of the Vandy fans and have them on your side. And that's what Coach Mason did. But obviously last season, you touched on it, Robert, there at the beginning, and a lot happened. There was a lot that happened in one season for Vanderbilt football, and it's going to be interesting to see how Coach Lea responds this year and kind of changing the culture and bringing in a new mentality. And it's going to be a fun fall camp to kind of see when and if they get numbers on their practice jerseys too. That's going to be interesting.
Oh, yeah. No, I know, obviously looking into it, Mason, if I'm not mistaken, Derrick Mason's your previous head coach, leaves or gets fired actually, and goes and joins Auburn, actually. I think it was. Auburn.
Yep. He's Auburn's DC. Yep.
Yeah. So, interesting there. Obviously, Georgia and Auburn have this, Deep South Soldiers rivalry going on.
Yeah.
That's a huge game every year. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
But, looking at it right here, I know you talked about your expectations. We'll talk about the, how we get to these 4 wins if possible a little bit later on in the show. We'll do a way too early season prediction for anybody listening. However, I want to kind of get your feel for, the state of the program right now. Looking at 2020, it was abysmal to say the least. That's putting it nicely. Obviously you're on a dog podcast here, and I know it's not your call, but, I think Georgia fans are licking their chops for when we play you on the 25th, just to see if we can drop 70 on you for canceling on us last year. There's still some, I think most of Dog Nation here is pretty pissed about that.
Hey, I get you. I'd be pissed if I was a Georgia fan too.
But obviously we know it's not your call. If you did call the shots, I'd have a question for you on the show, but I'm not going to do that.
Yeah, Robert, I mean, you're getting deeper into that. I think a lot of it was just the way the season was going for Vanderbilt last year. I'm surprised they even played as many games as they did. Obviously, they had to reschedule the Tennessee game. And I think what you saw is Vanderbilt wanted to get that Tennessee game in. They wanted to play that one, and they wanted to show that, hey, we're not going to back out on our rival. But the Georgia game, I think there was something deeper there. I don't know, kind of the motivation of that. They were beat up, but they were beat up before Tennessee, and they still played. So who knows, what the motivation was there, but it sure will be interesting to see what kind of motivation the week of Vandy, Georgia next year is gonna have in it.
Yep. Hey, so I saw a comment, somebody, Facebook user. So I posted a caption down at below. Anybody on Facebook, um, the stream platform that we're on right now, you need to go to that link and grant access so that you can see, or so that the platform will be able to see your name and your Facebook photo, just so we know who's talking when it comes to comments. So I'll keep that up for just a little bit longer for people coming in if they want to comment from Facebook. Um, so kind of going back to where we were here, obviously there was an underlying thing, and y'all didn't. I don't even think y'all won a game.
No.
But you look at that right there. I felt like the culture, basically, it just seemed like a defeated culture. The whole program seemed defeated. Obviously, you don't want to see that you're a fan of the Vanderbilt Commodores, so you don't want to see that. So my thing looking at it, last year, there was no reason for y'all to really play. You didn't want to get embarrassed. I would assume it would have been bad. But at the end of the day, looking at it, it definitely upset a lot of people. But, actually there was one good thing that I liked here, and that was Sarah Fuller. And, looking at that right there, throughout history, you hear that it's a man's sport, and I get that. But, there was a lot of debate over her coming on and actually, joining the team and, going forward with actually playing in the game, kicked the field goal, and obviously that kickoff, which obviously made history there. So that was pretty cool to me. What were your thoughts when Sarah joined the team and the media went crazy about it?
Yeah, they sure did. Initially, Robert, I think I was stunned. I really was, because throughout the season, Vanderbilt had a kicker. But they were struggling. They were struggling all year at the kicking position. But they had a kicker on the roster. They had multiple kickers on the roster. But obviously they had COVID issues with those guys, and Orrin Milstein, one of the main kickers, he obviously had a COVID issue that they said, but reportedly he was on campus and ready to go. So there's a lot going on there. Yes, it was something cool to see. But the deeper meaning, I think, behind it is, did they really have to? Did they really have to put Sarah Fuller out there when they had available? Orrin Milstein was reportedly available, and I'm sure some other guys on the team had kicked before. In high school, yeah, Pearson Cook. Thanks, my buddy Will Byram, the co-host of Dore Report. Pearson Cook was the other guy. Will's always there to correct me, but it was just something we've talked about it on the podcast, and Will is adamant about it too. There has to be someone else on that roster that's able to kick a football. Bottom line. And the sport of football is something that you go in the locker room and it's a bunch of guys. How often do you see a girl in a football locker room? Not really ever. What happened in the Missouri game was, quite frankly, for someone who's been a Vanderbilt fan in my life, embarrassing. Not the fact that she was on the field, but the fact that she gave a halftime speech and had to kind of give this rah-rah speech to these guys. And it was something that I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans were surprised by. But we've been used to a lot of this stuff from this university for a long time. It's just kind of been something that we've had to deal with. But Rob, it was an interesting time, as I mentioned, in the season. And the thing about it is, Sarah Fuller, yes, she made history. She's in the College Football Hall of Fame right now. Her jersey's there, and she's giving Vanderbilt publicity. She gave Vanderbilt football publicity, maybe not in the right ways. I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans, wish it would have happened maybe the other way around, with some wins, and not, the only publicity coming from a female kicker making history. So we'll see where I think people's opinions go on this. I think a lot of it has kind of faded away. But yeah, you're right. The social media uproar was pretty crazy, and I think it got more attention than Vanderbilt thought it was going to get. I really do.
I mean, I obviously, like you were saying, my personal take when I saw it, I was like, there's nothing better for Vanderbilt right now than to just try to get something and scratch for something.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, I think it was a pull to get some publicity and kind of pull away from the record, because, it was brutal last year, man. The product on the field was just unbearable. Like,
Yeah, and I'll tell you this, Robert, too. Your point, you make a good point, because it's, if you think about strategically from a marketing standpoint and kind of public relations, I think it was smart. I do. And I think it was smart because in today's political landscape, they made a lot of headway. They made a lot of headway on social media. They made a lot of headway in terms of, the feminist movement. But, then again, this is SEC football. And people go to watch SEC football to have a distraction from the political world and everything around you. So that they're kind of dancing on a fine line, I think. Are we coming to watch SEC football to have, to be immersed with more politics, or are we coming to watch SEC football to just come as a distraction? So we got somebody here. Absolutely, it was a smart decision. I think, for Vanderbilt, this was a smart decision. It really was. And you just mentioned it, Robert. And for a university like this, the only private school in the SEC, this was a good decision for Vanderbilt. Now, how many Vanderbilt fans agree with that? Who knows? But for Vanderbilt, strategically, it was a good decision.
Yeah, and obviously, look at the situation right here. I want to see the SEC as an entire conference, I guess you could say, be more, I don't know about parity, but I definitely want to kind of get the, strengthen the weakest link kind of feel to it. And that's the way it feels with Vanderbilt last year. It was, obviously there's no helping around it. SEC schedule was brutal. It is every year. And the fact that there was 10 games made it only worse.
That before the year, we were talking about that actually on the podcast, and we just, it was really hard to see Vanderbilt winning more than a game. Even, our prediction was 1 or 2 wins, and they didn't get any. So it's tough for any team. I mean, it was tough for Georgia. It was tough for all the SEC teams. But when you look at it, a school like Vanderbilt, the only private school, and notoriously not known for a good football reputation, it sure was tough. You're right.
Yep. No, I think you kind of said it right there. Last year, the expectations weren't even really that high.
No.
Ultimately, though, like I said at the beginning, new year, new regime, that's a big deal. I know you were talking about Coach Lee trying to establish a different culture. Honestly, I would like to see it, the kids buy in. But the kids that were there last year, I think that's where it starts, because they went through that firsthand and personally. So, with this new coaching staff, you have to get those guys that were on the team last year to buy in and fast. You have a regular season now, so you have a chance to win some games. Not saying that you're going to have a great season, but, honestly, just pulling away any kind of victories means a lot in a program where they're really trying to rebuild from scratch. And I hate to say this, but Vanderbilt really started from scratch considering what happened last year. So, any kind of moral victory there is going to be huge for a team, especially in the situation that Vanderbilt was in last year. But, obviously talking about the new regime and coaching staff and stuff, let's talk spring ball. So I want to kind of get a feel for, what your thoughts and takeaways were from the spring camp, spring game, things like that. What were your takeaways and thoughts right there? Who are some names that, maybe Georgia fans need to kind of keep an eye out for? I have one after I'll let you speak, tell you a little announcement for everybody. I know we probably have some Vanderbilt fans listening in. So definitely going to be worth monitoring there. But go ahead and tell me your thoughts or your takeaways there.
Yeah, so spring ball, it seemed like it went by like a snap of the finger. But it was really, really cool to see the different changes and kind of the way Clark Lee goes about coaching his football team. And I think it kind of started with the first practice. There were no jerseys there were no numbers on the jerseys. They had jerseys, but there were no numbers on the jerseys. And he pulled a page out of Tim Corbin's book, Vanderbilt's baseball coach, who's been at Vanderbilt almost 20 years. And it was something that I think Vanderbilt fans had to think about for a little bit, because I think they got a lot of hate. Coach Lee has gotten a lot of hate for this because it's not normal. This is out of the ordinary. He's doing things a little bit differently. And I think Vanderbilt fans can respect that because they've seen it before with Coach Corbin. They've seen Coach Corbin do that with every year. He does it every year. He makes the players earn their numbers, and he also makes the players earn the star V on their hat. So it'll be interesting to see kind of how many different things Coach Lee pulls out of Tim Corbin's book. But yeah, that was the first thing of spring ball. We recognized it and we said, okay, this is a thing. It's going to be tough to recognize these guys, and I guess for the beat writers, it's going to be even harder. But going deeper into spring ball, I think it was cool to see the way they practiced. I wasn't able to go to any of them, and not many other people were, other than if you're a part of the team, obviously because of COVID. But seeing videos, the team looks like they have a lot more energy, and they're just rallying. They're having fun. They're playing ball, and a lot of times last year, I'm not saying they didn't have fun. The team had fun last year at times. I'm sure they played with energy. But this year, it seems like they're more of a united group, a unified front, and they're fighting equally towards bringing Vanderbilt back to some sort of relevance in the SEC that James Franklin had him at. And then I guess some names to look for, Robert, would be obviously quarterback Ken Seals coming back for year 2. He was a guy that threw over 1,000 yards last year, nearly 2,000, and looked really good at times. Yes, he played like a freshman quarterback, but he made some throws that will make you think, okay, this kid's got a good future, and I think he has a potential to have a breakout season. And there's a few receivers that I think you need to keep an eye on. Cam Johnson in the slot. He played pretty well last year, and he's been looking forward to kind of stepping into a leadership role. But Chris Pierce played really well against Florida last year. I don't know if you saw it, but he had a touchdown that was all over Twitter where he broke a few tackles towards the end and ended up scoring against the Gators. He broke out actually against that Florida team. He had 4 straight games with touchdowns last season. So Chris Pierce is a guy to watch. It's really just the offense. I think the defense, I think, will struggle at times just because of the depth and the lack of bodies up front. That's usually the issue. But they did get a couple of defensive tackles, Marcus Bradley as a freshman, and then Tank Sujic. They call him Terry on Tank Sujic. And then Brendan Harris in the back end of the secondary. So it'll be really interesting to see how many of these guys step up. We got Will chiming in here too. Yeah, Will Shepard is a young receiver that will definitely be interesting to watch. Ramon Davis, running back. We don't know what we're going to get from him, but he played well at Temple. And then Max Worship, Davion Davis there on defense. So I think the offense, obviously, Robert, is the unit to watch. Ken Seals, Chris Pierce, Cam Johnson, and Ramon Davis could be the X factor, transfer from Temple. If he's able to catch balls out of the backfield, block well enough, and average 4, 5, even 6 yards a pop, this offense could be pretty damn good. It's just a matter of how far can this defense go, because the defense did struggle in the spring game. And you can't take a whole lot out of spring game, but the defense definitely looked a little bit sluggish. So we'll have to see what kind of improvements Coach Lee makes on that front.
Yeah, no, you were talking about defense, and another name that people might want to know for all you Vanderbilt fans listening right now, Alan George.
Yes.
So speaking of Alan George, the announcement is next week I'm going to have him on here, and we're going to talk some NCAA topics, probably more than likely name, image, likeness, and transfer portal. Just want to kind of get his takes, from an actual current athlete. I want to get there, get his opinion, pick his brain a little bit. Obviously, random chat if need be, but that's another name to keep an eye out for. And like I said, he'll be on next week. So I thought that'd be a cool little tidbit since
that's big time
Vanderbilt stream right now.
Yeah.
Anyways, so obviously we talked about the names right there. What we're gonna do, we're gonna do a way too early season prediction for the Commodores, but we're gonna do that when we come back from a quick break. Ever since I started podcasting, I've used Buzzsprout, and let me tell you this, you cannot go wrong with Buzzsprout. The team at Buzzsprout is passionate about helping you succeed. One of the hardest things about creating and starting your own podcast is not knowing what to do. Buzzsprout, it's super easy. They will help you out in regards to what to do. Buzzsprout will get your show listed in every major podcast platform. Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and Buzzsprout is the best partner you could imagine. You'll get a great looking podcast website,
audio players that you can drop into your other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening, and other tools to promote your episodes. And there's a lot more than just that. Join over 100,000 podcasters already using Buzzsprout to get your message out to the world. Follow the link in the show notes and let Buzzsprout know that we sent you. Get you a $20 Amazon gift card if you sign up for the paid plan, and it helps support our show.
All right, welcome back to the show, everybody. Before the break, we were talking about doing a way too early season prediction for the Commodores. With that being said, Billy, let me pop up the schedule here.
Here we go.
Then we will. There we go. We're going to go do our season prediction, and we're going to do it a third at a time. Actually, we'll do it. Actually, we'll do a quarter at a time. So obviously, if anybody's watching, it is going from left to Colorado to play Colorado State, and then Stanford comes up to Nashville, battle the academic programs. What seems to be, So those are your first three games. So just for me here, I taking into context the situation and things like that, I want to say that you pull out a game here, I think it's going to be. I think you could possibly go 1-2. And the first game is going to be your tone setter against East Tennessee State, because it's your first game with Clark Lee there. You're going to see the culture, and I think the kids are going to buy into this new season, new philosophy. I think September 4th, you come away with a win. And then, Colorado State, even though they're not a huge Power 5 program, they are a very, very good school. I generally think that the talent gap, even if they're not that, I think they're FCS, but they are a damn good FCS team. So I have them, and you're on the road for the first time, so there may be that chance that y'all, lose that game. And then Stanford in the Pac-12, the Pac-12 in itself has kind of fell off, but Stanford's still a good program. I just think that they're a little bit more overmatched in regards to the talent level there. So I think they come away with a win there. So what are your takeaways from the first three?
Yeah, so ETSU, obviously a team inside the state of Tennessee. Vanderbilt should get that win. You talked about it being a tone setter. Boy, if Vanderbilt can win decidedly in that, I think it's going to go a long way and kind of telling us what we might see from this team this year. And then week 2, I think this could be the most interesting game for Vanderbilt in terms of if they win this one, the Commodores are going to be able, to have some success, because going on the road and beating Colorado State, they actually are an FBS team. Coach Joey Lynch, their offensive coordinator last year, is now Vanderbilt's quarterbacks coach. So he definitely is going on the road, and he knows a little bit of what he might get from the Rams there. So I think Vanderbilt, it's going to be huge. That could potentially be a toss-up game, but I think Vanderbilt pulls it out. I think that's a big win for Vanderbilt in week 2. And granted, I this is kind of the first time we've done these. This really is way too early. But week 3, Stanford. This is, you talked about it being the battle of the high academic institutions. David Shaw coming over to Nashville. It's got to be Stanford's first trip to Nashville. But this I think was scheduled by Coach Mason. Unfortunately, for him, he's not able to play his old school. But Robert, in this one, if Vanderbilt can start the season 3-0, how much motivation does that provide for week 4 against Georgia in Athens? I think it's a lot. And if Vanderbilt can beat Stanford, which is going to be a long shot, I say they don't. Just playing at home against a team like Stanford, and Vanderbilt, it just hasn't necessarily proven themselves yet. We'll see. It's obviously way too early, but I say they start 2-1 before they head to Georgia week 4.
That may be just something to look. Considering last year and things like that, all eyes are probably going to be on Vanderbilt, or maybe the exact opposite, where nobody's paying attention. Depending on how the games go, the culture buy-in and things like that. Hell, who wants to say if it was 3-0 going into the Georgia, obviously we're coming up to Nashville this year, as you can see in the second line here. So starting at Georgia, and then you go to UConn, or actually UConn comes to Nashville as well.
Yep.
Then you go down to the Swamp, which is not a very pleasant place to be. I look at this right here, and I see the win against UConn, and then it may be in my take here, just keep being as real as I can. It's going to be ugly week 4 and week 6.
Yeah.
Even obviously, even with the potential success and the buy-ins and things like that, the talent gap between Georgia Vanderbilt and also Florida Vanderbilt, it is just way too much to overcome. Not to say that it can't be overcame. I just don't see it happening. So obviously September 25th, you look at, obviously the bad blood there from the cancellation last year.
That'll be fun.
Like I said, Georgia fans are still holding that grudge. I was livid when it happened. I was also speaking irrationally straight off the tape, but it is what it is. I've kind of cooled down just a little bit, but I expect it to get ugly. But UConn, I think, is a winnable game for you. For Vanderbilt at least, I think it's a very winnable game, and I think it's a must-win game at this point in the season, right? Because you place, depending on how the first 3 games, like I said, I think you win East Tennessee State. But if you need to find that win to get yourself back on track based off of my prediction here. And I think UConn will be the team to do it. But then you go to Florida, and honestly, Florida's a ridiculously hard place to play, especially for a team that's rebuilding like you are, like Vanderbilt is. That's a very tough challenge to go down to, Ben Hill Griffin and pull away a win. So I think, like I said, I think you come to the back half of the season 2-4, which, like I said, any win is a moral victory right now. With this type of infancy with the program, right, with all these changes. So I'm looking at the second, the first half, you come away with 2-4, which I think is honestly respectable considering the circumstances. What is your takeaway on the second 3 games?
Yeah, so this second tier of games here, Georgia at home in Nashville, this is going to be tough for Vanderbilt in a lot of ways, especially defensively. Georgia always runs the ball well. So that'll be interesting. I think Georgia and Florida in particular, we got UConn here sandwiched in the middle, but Georgia and Florida in particular, for Vanderbilt, and this, Vanderbilt has competed with Georgia at times in games. I know they stole one in Athens a few years ago with Zach Cunningham making that tackle. And then, Vanderbilt has had some battles, especially in the James Franklin years, but we're far away from those. We're no longer in the James Franklin years. So Coach Lee is going to have to find a way to compete with these 2 teams, Georgia and Florida, because throughout every season, this is the measuring stick. How far behind are you from Georgia and Florida? How far in the trenches? How much of a beating are you taking in the trenches? Because that tells a lot of Vanderbilt fans where this team is. And then UConn sandwiched in the middle at a good time. I think a lot of Vandy fans are happy we don't play Georgia and then Florida back to back. I don't think that's possible. But for UConn, Vanderbilt needs to win that one. It's kind of like Colorado State. If they win, this team is going to have a lot of things to look forward to in the future. But if they lose, that means you go back to the drawing board somewhat. I think UConn and Colorado State are in that same tier of games. If you win, things are looking up. If you lose those games, things are really looking down. And I think a lot of the motivation and passion from Vandy fans might go down as well. But like I said, everything kind of circles back to Tennessee at the end, and I know we'll get there here with this schedule.
Yep. So obviously, like I was just posted up here, you saw Will talk about Stanford and Florida both losing their starting quarterbacks. To the draft, I think with Costello and Trask. So looking at this right here, I was actually just talking yesterday, Dan Thompson from Stadium and Gale covers Florida Gators. And he was kind of high on their quarterback situation. So even with Trask gone, I know, in my opinion, Florida, they lost a ton on the offensive side of the ball. I'm not going to question that with Pitts, obviously starting off, Trask, Tony.
Kadarius Toney, yep.
That's a big amount of offense to try to scrounge around and find and reproduce.
I think chiming in there, I think Florida is going to be behind Georgia, like you said. You're talking about the offense. So Vanderbilt, if they can compete with Florida, which they've shown they have, they can. Especially when Florida comes to Nashville. This time they're going to the Swamp. Even at the Swamp, Vandy's competed with Florida. For fourth quarter, usually gets out of hand. But if Vanderbilt is able to hang in there with Florida, that's a good sign for them. Obviously, Florida's a step behind Georgia, but I do think if Vanderbilt is able to somehow compete with Florida and then maybe bring it, towards the end of the year, that'd be a good sign.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, anything's possible, right? What we're doing here is based off of, thoughts and really on paper. Obviously, the games are played on the field, not on paper, because it wouldn't mean shit if it was. So obviously, there's
we wish they were played on paper.
Oh man, you know what? Georgia would win a damn national title. That's just the way I look at it. I think most dog fans would think the same.
Yeah. Vandy would be already be in Atlanta, maybe in the James Franklin years.
But if you get the homers right, you're going undefeated for the first time ever, probably. All right, we're gonna pop back into the second half of the season. So after Florida, you go from the swamp, then you go to Williams-Brice and South Carolina with a new coach, Shane Beamer, and new coaching staff there, and that's going to be a telling sign to see how that game plays out, in my opinion. Depending on the first half of the season there, South Carolina, I've had Chris Phillips on from the Spurs Up show, and we were talking this. Vanderbilt, he was high on the Cox in this game. And honestly, looking at the talent that was inherited, I think South Carolina has the upper hand here. So I have to give it, especially with South Carolina being at home, I have to give them this right here. Then obviously you look at Mississippi State coming to town. Mike Leach and his crazy self. It's funny, super spectacle of a character.
He's weird.
Call him. He's definitely wild. Bringing the air raid, Will Rogers. And honestly, maybe I don't know if you saw this, but he kind of torched our defense. Will Rogers did last year.
Yeah.
With their air raid, obviously we pulled away and won, but you know what I mean. But looking at that right there, I think that's a winnable game for Vanderbilt. And then you go to then Missouri comes in, and I don't know about this because I think Missouri and Kentucky could possibly pull away. One of the two. I think Kentucky, but Missouri could very well finish third in the conference. And I just see Missouri, coming in and winning. Now, whether it's a close game, not entirely sure, but I do think that Missouri will pull away here. Obviously, then you have your bye week, and then Kentucky comes to town. Kentucky's defense, Mark Stoops has that defense. It's insane.
Mm-hmm.
But to stick to the first three games, I think you go 1-2 here as well. I think Mississippi State is a winnable game. Considering you just played Florida and South Carolina, I have a feeling the South Carolina game could be one of those close games that just lost. So the emotions are high there. So you have something to prove against Mississippi State, and I think that's where you come away with a win there. Even if it's close, I think it's a win. So I'm looking at obviously 3/4 of the way through. You're looking at 3-6. Like I said, it's still not that bad. Considering the circumstances, obviously, as mentioned before. What are your thoughts on the first three games of the second half of the season?
Okay, so first three, the second half here, South Carolina in Columbia, Williams-Brice obviously going to be rocking with 100% at the SEC stadium. This could be the best atmosphere Vanderbilt plays in. I know Gainesville will likely be rocking, and in Tennessee later in the year, even Ole Miss. But I think Columbia is always a really great atmosphere, as you know, Robert. If Vanderbilt, again, this is going to be another measuring stick opportunity. The last three games of the year, Kentucky, Ole Miss, and Tennessee, believe it or not, I think three-fourths of the way here is Carolina, Mississippi State, Missouri. I think they could be easier. Now I know Tennessee is they're likely not going to be a great team next year, but I think South Carolina, Mississippi State, Missouri, I believe Mississippi State, out of these three teams, I agree with you, Robert. Vanderbilt could pull that one out because they are at home. South Carolina is obviously going to be tough. Mississippi State, if they can pull that one out, boy, this team, that means they could get potentially, if they do beat Colorado State and UConn, get up to 4, even 5 wins. So, yeah, Jacob Skoll chiming in. Vanderbilt's lost 11 straight to South Carolina, and it seems like South Carolina just finds a way, no matter how close it is, to beat Vanderbilt. And we'll see if the streak ends. It's going to be tough to end it on the road. But moving on to Missouri. Missouri has been a team Vanderbilt has competed with. They except for last year. You can kind of throw last year out the window in terms of Vanderbilt's history of competing with SEC teams. But this one is at home. I think if you beat either Mississippi State or Missouri, you're looking at a 5-win season. I really do believe, because if you beat Mississippi State, Missouri, you're damn well going to be beating ETSU, Colorado State, UConn. So you got 3 wins there, and if you beat Missouri, that's 4. And then end of the year, you beat Tennessee. I think a lot of Vanderbilt fans are looking forward to beating Tennessee this year. So that would get them to 5. So
Yep.
bottom 3-4s here. If they can beat Mississippi State, I think they get to 5 wins. But Carolina, State, and Missouri, those are 3 really good teams. And it's going to be tough from Vanderbilt's point of view. From the whole of the SEC, they're kind of middle of the pack. But for Vanderbilt, those teams are still really tough to beat. So this is a big stretch for Vanderbilt here.
Yep. So obviously, right here, as we can see here, like I said, I'm at the 3/4 mark, moving into the final home stretch here. I've got you at 3-6 so far. So obviously, you have that bye week before Kentucky. Honestly, I think you need that bye week. Kentucky is a very, very physical team, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Georgia knows firsthand. So you play. Kentucky comes down to Nashville, and I think Kentucky wins. I think defensively they cause too many problems for your offense to really overcome and get things clicking and things like that. And I think that defense kind of helps Kentucky to the win. Then you go to Oxford and play Ole Miss. Matt Corral and company with Lane Train down there.
Yeah,
it's one of the most potent offenses in the SEC, and I just think it's just too much to overcome. From a defensive standpoint.
Boy, Matt Corral can sling it, can he?
Oh my goodness! If he was obviously we've got JT Daniels, but you always sometimes look at it like, what if, right? So it was interesting to think about that. But Lane Train has got that offense, high-powered offense. I just think it's too much. And then we move on to the final game, and I think this is one of your rivalry games here with Tennessee.
You think?
Oh yeah, I know. It's fine. So we look at Tennessee, and really, as a dog fan here, I hate the Gators and I hate Tennessee. The dark side of my fanhood is laughing at Tennessee for what they did to themselves. I feel bad for the players as the good, the angelic side over here is talking to me. But, just looking at it, like Tennessee put themselves into this situation. They really made a dumb decision, in my opinion, not putting that buyout clause for Pruitt. So they had to kind of do what they had to do to get him off, which basically led to somewhat of a program suicide temporarily, to the point where I don't even know if they can recover, or if they do, how long it will be. So Tennessee is going to be in shambles. They had so many people leaving the portal, guys backing out of their national letter of intents. It's insane amounts right now. They've gotten some recruiting momentum and transfer portal pickups. I just think that by this point in the season, Tennessee is just trying to hold on to anything, and really the program is in such disarray now. But it's probably going to be worse come their with their schedule and things like that. I think Vanderbilt pulls away a win here to end up with the season prediction for total 4-8. And I think, like I said, 4-8 is my prediction here. But I think that's a fair. That's a good, obviously it's not bowl eligible, but I think it's for a first year, trying to reestablish a culture, try to really revive a fan base, revive the program. I think that's a good start for the situation in Vanderbilt.
No doubt. I agree. And that last stretch, Kentucky at home, and then you go on the road against Ole Miss and Tennessee. Ole Miss is obviously going to, you talked about it, they have potential to be one of the most lethal offenses, not only in the West, but in all of the SEC. So SEC is going to have their hands full with Ole Miss and that offense. But towards the end of the year, Tennessee, and like I said, Robert, at the beginning, Vanderbilt could go 1-11, beat Tennessee, and there's going to be a lot of happy Vandy fans. And we talked about that a lot on the podcast.
There would be some damn happy Georgia fans, too, just because it's Tennessee. Trust me.
Yeah. Hey, when Vanderbilt beat Tennessee, I think at home a few years ago, there were a lot of teams, Georgia fans, a lot of Florida fans, just kind of, they loved Vanderbilt that day.
Oh man,
look,
here's my honest opinion here. As a dog fan, I'm never going to pull for Florida. I'm never going to pull for Tennessee. Period. I just won't. I had Dan on yesterday, and it was Florida and Bama. I couldn't make a pick. And I couldn't do it.
Neither of them.
See, because of the implications that it has for Georgia, potentially, I can't pull for nobody. I couldn't pick that game. Like, I don't want to pull for anybody in that game. So the hatred in my blood for Tennessee and not Vanderbilt, but Tennessee and Florida, it's deep. Man.
It's there. It's there. And it's there for a lot of Vandy fans too. Again, towards Tennessee. But again, if Vanderbilt can get I think they're 4-8 also. I think they go 0-3, that 3/4 stretch that we had against Mississippi State. I don't think they beat Mississippi State or Missouri or the first team for South Carolina. So I don't think they beat either of them, but I do think they beat Tennessee. I think they get to 4 wins. Here's why. Coach Lee, I think, is going to put an emphasis on beating Tennessee. He was never able to beat Tennessee. Coach Lee, he was not. So the thing is, we got Braden McPherson, a lot of Dore Report guys chiming in here. He's picking 4-8, 1-7. I'm there too. I'm 4-8, 1-7 also, and that is an improvement. That's a damn improvement from last year by a long stretch. So if Vanderbilt can get to 4-8, you don't want to be happy about it. It's as a SEC fan, it feels weird being happy about that. But the way last season went, if you're 0-9. It feels pretty damn good to get 4 wins under your belt, beat Tennessee, and then you keep it rolling with Coach Lee. So I think Coach Lee is all the motivation in his blood is going to be there to beat Tennessee, and I think they do. So it should be fun.
Yeah, I'm going to make a quick shout out here. I'm looking at Twitter right now, and Magoogs obviously is looking at the podcast on Twitter, and his comment made me laugh. And it says, check out to hear a dog fan podcast, still talking about 2020 football season and Sarah Fuller. My goodness, move on. I just wanted to give that shout out there. Look, I am trying, okay? I'm trying.
Hey, this is what we got to talk about right now, right? We got it. Sarah Fuller.
If you're listening, Magoogs, I'm trying. Obviously, we're talking 2021, so I am moving on. It is a new season. I understand.
Hey, that's still part of the motivation.
Hey, man, look, Georgia fans won't live it down until we play y'all. That's just the way it is. Sorry.
I respect how pissed off Georgia fans were. I was pretty surprised. I mean, I do get it. I think it kind of took me a while to realize it, but Georgia wanted to keep playing, and they knew they could improve, their RPI, I guess you could say, or their resume. By playing Vanderbilt. Now Vanderbilt's 0-9. I don't know how much you're gonna improve that, but
depending on how you win the game, I guess. But yeah.
Yeah. So it was really. I think it just goes to show the passion from all the Georgia fans and how they roll down in Athens. Because I've realized, being a Vanderbilt fan my life and going to Vanderbilt football games and seeing fans take over the stadium, I don't think any fan base has taken over that stadium the way Georgia did week 1 a couple of years ago. I really don't. I walked in there. I don't know. I'm sure a lot of Georgia fans there, because the whole damn stadium looked red to me. It
is a known fact that Georgia fans travel about as well as any team in the country.
They did it to Notre Dame too. They did it in South Bend. Yeah.
Oh,
they made a whole weekend trip out of that.
Rose Bowl as well when we played.
Yeah, they did it.
Too.
So, and I walked into that Vanderbilt stadium. I not going to too many games because I'm down here in Florida in college, but walking through that concourse, walking in and looking around and going, "Wow, I'm in Athens right now." And part of me was like, "This is embarrassing," but another part of me was like, "Hey, this is pretty damn cool to be in Athens right now." But deep down, it's like, wow, like how is this happening right now?
Oh no, absolutely. And kind of going here as well. You were talking about Georgia fans traveling well, and since we're on this topic here, we both hate Tennessee. I'm going to bring this up. I remember. I don't know if you remember this. It was actually the game where they honored Peyton Manning.
Yes.
They got the fans to try to checker it out, and they couldn't because there was so much red.
Oh, there was too much red in Neyland, huh?
Too much. It was a failed attempt there.
I bet y'all were loving it.
I mean, 41-0 in their home stadium. It was, and they were honoring Peyton Manning. I think they could have done better day to honor him. I get the point. Hey, Peyton hated Georgia, so I mean I get it, but man, that was a
Yeah,
rough day for Tennessee. But yeah, Georgia fans
tough
travel well,
day.
man.
They do.
They
They
travel
really
well.
do. And the Georgia fans they're passionate. They're crazy, just like every other SEC fan. But I think you got to look at it at some point and just say, "Damn, those are some passionate people who love football and love their school." So I'll give it to you, man. This is hopefully they hop on this damn good dogcast too soon.
Yeah, I mean I'll gladly take it, gladly accepting follows and stuff like that as well. But anyway, hey. Billy, I just wanted to say, man, thanks for your time here. I'm glad you were able to come on and obviously chat a little bit about Vanderbilt. Definitely kind of get to understand, obviously trying to move on, Magoogs, move on from 2020 and, focus on the new regime with Coach Lee there. So, obviously thank you for your time there. It was a pleasure having you on. Before you go and before we get off here, give the people, I'll give you a minute to basically – tell the people where to find you, find your work. I know you said you have the Dore Report. Let people know.
Yeah, so Dore Report, Dore_report on Twitter. I see that you just put it on there. So give us a follow there. We're really trying to build it up. So give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram, also Dore.report. And you can follow me, Derrick_Billy on Twitter. I got about a team of 8 guys that are working really hard to give Vanderbilt fans some entertainment and some content. And Will Byron, my co-host, along with many other guys that work hard. You got Braden McPherson, Brian Carlson, Jacob Scholl, Jalen Merricks, Jackson Tolk, all those guys. They've been working really hard, and hopefully we'll be able to keep it rolling. So yeah, thanks for having me, Robert.
Hey man, my pleasure. Hey, I mean, you gave your shout out to everybody on the squad, man. So
yeah.
Hey, even if you're a Dogs fan, man, go listen to the Dole Report. I've listened to your stuff before, your content. Very informative pieces there. If you're a person that likes to keep up with the opponents like I do, basically because we play you every year, I need to know. So I keep up with that. To me, it's important, like recruiting as well. So it's always good to go listen to it, man. It's good content. Obviously, I know I got some Vanderbilt fans in here. Y'all probably, if y'all don't know, now you do.
Yeah, now we know you. We're gonna have to get you on the week of Georgia.
Hey, don't tempt me with a good time. Don't tempt me with a good time.
Hey, we'll stay in touch. Thanks again, Robert.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
You too.
All right, folks. That is it for the show. Thanks for Billy again to have him on there. And obviously it was a good show here. Like I said, if you're a Vanderbilt fan and you're still listening, definitely worth looking into. Next week, Alan George coming on, talk some NCAA topics here. But for this episode of the Damn Good Dogcast, that is all I have for today. Make sure we're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to the show. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, whatever the case may be. And on that note, though, everybody have a great day, and I will see you on the next episode.